Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Recruiter podcast. Joined today by James Burris. James, how you doing, my friend?
Very well. It's Friday, Thomas, and the end of the week, and I get to speak to you and your listeners is a good way to end the week.
It is, yeah. We were just reminiscing about the fact that last time we spoke, I'm claiming I was in a hotel. You're claiming I was in a pub, but I think you are. I think we'll go with you. I think you're probably right. I think it was a hotel with a bar, to be fair to me. So we're both right.
Yeah, but I heard 12 weeks is a long time. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's if I keep talking about bars and hotels and beer though, it's Friday, I'll probably crack. So but maybe we need to get back onto the security stuff and stop talking about it, mate.
That's great. That sounds great.
But James, for the listeners that don't know you, I'm just going to do you a mini intro. I can never do it as well as you, and if I pronounce anything wrong, please do feel free to correct me. But yeah, been in the business for a substantial length of time. Started back as a consultant at UUNet in 1999. You then moved on to General Dynamics. You were there for around 3 years. You progressed from a senior network engineer up to a technical manager, and then you made the leap and started out in business, Ashburn Consulting. You've had the business for around 20 years and you're the president and CEO. So I'm imagining there's a few stories in there to get to where you are today, my friend. But yeah, got your intro about right there.
Yeah, that's right, Thomas. There was one thing, the way I got into the field was through education. So I got my graduate degree in telecommunications management. I know I'm dating myself. This was in the mid 1990s. And after graduating, my first job was with a company called Booz Allen in Hamilton. I was assigned as an associate on a NASA project. It was a weather satellite that was planning to be launched, and it was a joint cooperative between NOAA, the weather team here in the US, and then the Space Development Agency of Japan and NASA. I was on a unique team where really I was digesting the requirements of the satellite and ensuring that as it approached these ground stations, that it had enough time to download the data and distribute this out to a number of different locations. And after working with Booz Allen, they were strictly a management consulting company. I decided, hey, I really wanted to get my hands a little dirty, wanted to practice what I've learned in graduate studies, and decided I wanted to venture out. And so at that point, I did an interview with Cisco and UUNet. And so that is what I chose. And we were a small niche consulting group out of UUNet, really handling just UUNet clients. And back in the day, UUNet was really the backbone internet. And it was predominantly Fortune 500 companies that we would consult with. Our group was really broken up into two. We had a cyber or security engineering and a network engineering team within our group. And it was a small group. It was 15 to 20 engineers. And we were the hired gun. So as they would sell either a firewall or circuits, we would fly in, set the enterprise up, and move on to the next client. So I was on the road 4 days a week. But that was really the best experience because I got to see just different enterprises. You got to see small and medium sized businesses. And I was in New York and got to see large financial organizations. And so it was a really great experience, probably the best career defining moments where I got to learn just general networking, security, how to set up perimeter environments. And then WorldCom bought a lot of those engineers had actually dispersed and went to different companies. And that's when I went to General Dynamics. And then, I was leading a group at General Dynamics and again, setting up a perimeter environment for a local county government in the DC area. I led that team, but then we morphed into network engineering, setting up and creating the network backbone for county and state and local county governments. I then had asked to come back. One of the founding member of Ashburn Consulting, he had asked me to join him and jumpstart the company back in 2005, and we worked together at UUNet. So he had left and went to a federal agency, Homeland Security, and he said, "Hey, I have this great idea. Let's jumpstart Ashburn, get the band back together." And so, I took a chance in 2005 and it really helped jumpstart Ashburn Consulting. And Thomas, it was funny because nearly 20 years ago, You jump into this with great intentions and, hey, we're going to kill it and do it. But it was rather a simple idea. We knew what we had at UUNet because we had a great team, we had great engineering, and we were like, let's replicate this in the market because we know our skill sets are marketable. We know how to do network and security really well. So why don't we form a team and market that as a service? And so that's how Ashburn Consulting started, really. He was leading our federal group, and I led our state and local county government and commercial practices. And that's how we just jump-started the company.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's loads to unpack there. You talked about leveraging an existing relationship. You talked about how you broke in. I'm imagining having two of you at the start and being able to take your learnings from UUNet was really good. Was the fact that when you was at you mentioned dealing with Fortune 500 companies, getting exposure to lots of different environments. So I'm imagining, was it really good being in a small firm, dealing with large clients and lots of different types of environments? That sounds like a mecca, like a maze playground to harness your self-development. Am I right? Was that good fun? Yeah.
Right. That was the most growth in my technical background and they did a really good job because they wouldn't necessarily send you out to a client until you were vetted. So there were a number of labs that we had set up internally, not just only from a security perspective, but also network engineering. Okay, they would throw you in a lab, they would give you a scenario, and you, on your own skill set, you would have to configure things, and you would have a manager come in, validate things. And then at that time period, I do remember one of the biggest firewall products that we would resell or UUNet sold was checkpoint firewalls. And so we would go around the country and the world just setting up perimeter environments, getting their checkpoint firewalls integrated into their enterprises, migrating back then email servers, the web servers, and making sure that those environments were secure. And then, on to the next client. But that actually enabled me. I became a certified instructor in Checkpoint. We would also host classes where we would train outside companies that wanted to get trained on Checkpoint, and I was a certified trainer, and that's actually how I really built my speaking skills, because most engineers hate speaking, Thomas. Like, they hate to get in front of customers, and when you're forced to do this over a week and you get to have a wide variety of clients captivated by the Checkpoint class, really enabled me to not only get deeper into the firewall product, to be a better consultant. I guess that's a better way to put it. But those days were foundational in my career, because I don't think I would be the engineer that I am today without those basic fundamental skill sets that I've acquired over that time frame.
Yeah, thanks, James. You probably look back now and think, obviously, they were paying you to work there, but you probably look back now and look at that time as just priceless. You look back and go, God, like what you learned then. And there's probably people listening now at a more junior level than you, and that perhaps don't realize, if you are in that smaller company, getting those exposures like you've got is, to a certain extent, who cares what you're earning? It's the lessons that you get, and you can't really get anywhere else. It's a good way of looking at it, isn't it?
It's a great way to look at it. That would be my encouragement to your listeners is, again, we didn't do a lot of necessarily cyber things, but we did a few things really well. And setting up enterprises and getting them connected to the internet safely and securely, and migrating applications. Again, it was a very niche service, but it was highly demanded. Like I said, it was major financial organizations to smaller mid-size companies. But what we realized is that most organizations that we consulted to were facing the same dilemmas, like, how do I get connected to the internet safely? And how do I migrate my enterprises and applications to the internet and make them available and secure? And having a time period where that evolved over time, but having those foundations, it was priceless. Most of our engineers, it was a great group of guys and women. And that all of us shared ideas. We would be in communication with you. If we got stuck on a problem, any one of the engineers would pick up and say, hey, let me remote in, help you out. And so it was a really great team. And we carried that on to our company today. most of what we did and learned, and we carried that on to. And actually, most of the people that we hired initially were some of those guys that were part of that group. That's another encouragement to some of your listeners is the relationships and the people that you work with. You don't know when you're going to run into them or the companies or organizations that you're currently supporting today, but those relationships are foundational and in a lot of different ways. And our community is small, so it's a big field. It's a yes, but a lot of those relationships are still really healthy today. And a lot of those engineers and salespeople have moved on to different companies, but we all know each other and keep in touch and try and help each other out. Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, I think staying really specialized. I know from the recruitment world, if you operate in a particular sector for a long period of time and you do the job well, it gets easier on the candidate side, it gets easier on the client side, and that's what you're saying. And you will use the word relationships, and yeah, I can really see the value in that. And James, I think what the listeners can get for you, you mentioned communication about 5-10 minutes ago, but I was going to ask you about it anyway because I know from just when we chat, like when we jump back in here today, I know we'd not spoken for a bit, but it was just like bang, we were straight in, and the conversation was flowing. I know how good your communication skills are. I know your blue team skills are really strong, and obviously the business acumen that you've got is good. So I think they're the things we can really dive into, and that's where the listeners can get a lot of value from. And a minute ago, you left General Dynamics, started Ashburn Consulting, and two of us, and you glossed over a bit, but you made it sound incredibly easy. I'm sure it wasn't, but what was it actually taking that job? So you're at General Dynamics, you're a senior network engineer, you've got promoted to the technical manager, and you've gone, I'm going to set up my own business, going to go into business now. What was that actually like? How scary was that? It'd be nice to hear about some challenging times that you and your partner had then, and how you guys overcame then, and any learnings there for the folks listening.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't an easy transition, Thomas, because at that point I had a family. I had three children. I had a wife that stayed at home and was a single learner and left a really good job, stable. It was a great company, but I was really captivated, and we had a relationship. So it wasn't just me and my business partner. We had another partner. So three of us that worked at UUNet started Ashburn Consulting, but the relationship that I had with the founder of Ashburn was gold. I knew that no matter what, that we would have each other's back in a lot of ways. I know it's a cliche, but and yeah, one of the challenges starting a business, we all put a little capital into the company, and that quickly ran out because we quickly realized, Thomas, that we were on 30 terms with the major integrators, which generally turned into net 45, net 60.
Yeah.
So we had to self-fund ourselves for 60 days. So that was a little bit of a challenge. And the other challenge as a small business is really, how do you distinguish yourself? Like, how do you distinguish yourself from other small startup companies? And this is a really competitive environment in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. You have a lot of small companies that are providing IT services to state and local and federal clients. But the way we distinguish ourselves is really the technical acumen that we've developed over those years. Like one of my business partners, he was at Homeland Security. He is a phenomenal security engineer. My other business partner, he was a phenomenal network engineer, and I'm mixed between the two. And the way we started the company was we were all billable as owners of the company. And I think that was important for us because part of being a business owner, a consultant, and CEO to me back then was chief everything officer. I was not only billing and supporting clients, but also doing back office work. I was doing business development. I was trying to get new clients on board. So literally I was doing a lot, and all of us were. But I think an important attribute of part of our leadership was we were all technical. We were all really good at what we did. And we all, like today, I'm still billable to a client, even though I'm a CEO and president of the company. And I think that was important for us because we had to be involved in client work really to be a better leader in our space. Because we can easily speak to what some of the challenges that our clients are facing and what are some of the solutions that they're looking for today. And how do we evolve as a company to bring some innovative thought, leadership, and solutions to our clients. So all of our leadership was billable, and that's a good thing, but it could be a challenge because you got to also work on the business. Like you can't work in the business, but you also got to work on the business, which we've learned throughout the years. Those are some of the challenges, and the way we worked our way through some of those challenges is through partnerships. Like we Part of our growth strategy was in this particular area, you have to partner with some of the large system integrators like the Peritons, the General Dynamics, and we were SMEs in a lot of instances and into the clients that we were supporting. But we grew, particularly our federal business, through that, as well as our state and local. We partnered with some big companies like Verizon, General Dynamics, and then began to develop not only skilled resources, but a pathway to become a prime contractor, in particularly in the state and local government area. So that happened back in 2014, where we became a prime contractor, particularly in the state and local government arena. And some of the solutions we brought to the market, we resold to other clients in the region, which began to accelerate kind of our growth. So really early on, stick to your fundamentals, stick to really what you're good at, but grow with partners, strategic partners. And that not only on the system integrator side, but also on the vendor side. We Part of our culture and core values, Thomas, is that we're vendor agnostic. We're strategic advisors to our clients in networking and security. So we're not necessarily tied to one solution vendor. And we really bring to the market, a lot of our clients will say, hey, here's my problem, help me solve it. We're not always going to pitch one vendor like a Cisco or a Juniper or a Palo or Fortinet. We're going to tailor a custom solution to the client and bring best technology and best service to our clients. And so we're trusted advisors. Like, our clients have trusted us over the years of doing that. So yeah, I would say work through those challenges early with strategic partners, but you're going to have to eventually evolve into become a prime contractor, because that's where you have a little bit more leverage, you have a little bit more direct interactions with your clients. And yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question,
No,
Thomas.
no, thank you, mate. It does, and I really like this strategic partnership. Or a chap called Michael that owns a company called Ideal Integrations. He was talking about this the other week, and it's like a really sophisticated form of BD or business development, and I really like it. And like I say, you talk about a journey to becoming the prime vendor. If you just go for the prime vendor straight away, I'm imagining there's going to be a lot of starving before the feast comes. It's probably a really hard place to get to where you are now, and business development's hard and building relationships hard. So if you can do it through these partnerships, then definitely. I love the fact that you're all. I can't believe you're still billable. I tell you why I think that's wicked, because I know from the conversations I'm having all day, every day with engineers, they love that. I think it improves retention rates. I think when someone comes to you with a problem, like the way that you can handle it and manage someone, it's real, because you're like, yeah, I'm still doing it. And it's even on client calls, it's better. I know from myself when I'm talking to clients, because I'm doing recruitment all the time, your client meetings are better and you can talk to your team better. So I think that staying visible and keeping your kind of hands on the keyboard and proving it to the people. Do you find it really helps with the team, that aspect?
Absolutely. And one of the, again, core values that we've had is when I'm on a client site, when I'm consulting, I'm just a member of the team, even though I'm president and CEO. Like, I'm one of you guys, just really trying to satisfy the requirements of what our clients are really trying to do. We're working as a team. Yes, there's obviously a structure or a hierarchy. When I'm billable, I'm just a member of the team. And yeah, I think you're right, Thomas, because I think what resonates with our clients is, hey, have you done this successfully at another client similar to ours? And the more effective you can be in communicating that to your clients, I think, is the reason why they trust. You build trust. And so I'll just give you a little example. One of our clients is one of the larger county governments in this area. They had dark fiber to 400 sites. They didn't know what to do with it. So we came with an architecture solution. I was a little aggressive back then because we were a small business. We were hungry, Thomas. But I said, yeah, we can accomplish what you want in a year. So not only from design to architecture, but deploying the equipment and migrating 200 sites in a year. And we actually did it in 9 months. But that architecture solution, which was something called MPLS with overlay of dense wave division multiplexing, like, that was a complicated enterprise backbone internet type of solution we're bringing to bear to a county government. We did it in 9 months, but we took that solution and resold it to other county governments in this area. And so I think that's really important, because we successfully implemented this at a client. We demonstrated its capabilities and we said, hey, this is where you are today, but here's where you can be in another year if we partner together. And that's just a little example of where I think it's really effective, where you're presenting solutions that you've accomplished at some of these clients that they're facing the same challenges. And so, yeah, I think it's not only important for the client, but also it does build a team camaraderie. Like, hey, my business owner, my president CEO is willing to get his hands dirty with me and ensure that we can do this together. And so I think it not only builds a respect. Engineers, I think, generally respect leadership if you're working together and you can demonstrate the capabilities. I think not only getting respect from your staff, but also gaining that trust and respect from your clients is one of the reasons I think it's healthy for you don't need to be full-time billable, but at least part-time billable and just engage with clients because the technology and some of the solutions are being developed so quickly that you become quickly irrelevant. You can quickly say, I did this 5 years ago. I really don't know what's happening in the marketplace today. And so I do think it's important for even leadership to actively engage with their clients, either in a consultative engagement or just routinely talk to them about some of the challenges we're facing.
And I bet you love it. I couldn't imagine you ever just sat behind a spreadsheet doing it all day. Like, no chance. Like, I bet you love getting on the tools.
I love it. Yes, I love it. I was at an engagement last night from one of our clients, and this is how we've grown organically as well. Thomas is like he's communicating to his counterparts how essential our services has been, like, and some of the way we've demonstrated the evolution of his program, and he's communicating that more effectively than I can. And I was at an engagement where, other CIOs or CISOs were hearing it directly. And I think our organic growth has really been our past performances with our clients, and they tell other CIOs and CISOs in the area how effective we've been. And it's a great testament to, again, some of the things that we've built. It takes a long time to build that, Thomas, the trust and really a true partnership. But once you can do it, I think because contagious, because yeah, we love solving challenges with some technologies and bringing some solutions to bear to our clients that we know they're facing, but really evolving their programs to not only modernize their environments, but also be more strategic in, okay, what does the next year or two look like? And what are some areas of improvement, not only on the cyber side, but also on the networking and infrastructure side that we can bring to bear. So I think we have a more holistic view of enterprise networking and security that we've developed over those years. Yeah.
Definitely. And what you're talking about there, the storytelling, the real life things that have happened and repeating, that is just such an effective way of acquiring more clients because it's really real. And like I said, people can see it. I know I, for one, used to think that everyone used to want to know everything about our company history and this, that. They just want real life stories of how you've delivered before. You're absolutely right. It's the same with what we do in recruitment. So I really get it. Do you know what I really like about the whole going back to the billable piece and stuff like that? What you're really talking about there with what all three of you are doing is really good leadership skills. I think some people, when they first come into leadership, we've all seen that image of a leader pointing and not doing anything. And sometimes people think that's what management is and what leadership is. But I think if you're really getting amongst it and you've got the humility and the self-awareness to do it, I think that really is ultimately what good leadership is. And yeah, it's good, mate. I like it. Was that just something you guys naturally knew to do, or do you just prefer it like that, or how did it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just working in that environment where it was very collaborative, it was, hey, let's like build each other up. There are certain areas that each of us needed to improve on. It was that type of environment that we knew we wanted to build from the get-go. Is a really collaborative environment. If there's deficiencies in any one of our employees or the people that we hire. So I think it was just a natural leadership quality that each of us had. And yeah, I think you're great. It was humility. It was, but we also had to be strategic how we're going to lead our company to evolve in technology. But part of that was, like you mentioned, getting our hands dirty, getting our hands with the technology, getting a team together that had expertise in these areas that we can continue to foster collaboration. But I also think how we fostered that was integrity. Like we lived to what we were preaching. Like we not only from a client side of basically committing an engagement with our client, we always were we had integrity in that entire process. But also the culture that we built within the company was we knew that our employees were our key resource. And so we knew that the more we can, yeah, lead them effectively and take care of them as we're about 80 employees now, so it's a little harder to do, but that family, hey, you're part of the Ashburn Consulting family, you're going to be valued, you're going to be in a collaborative environment, but there's going to be some leadership. And so we built that into the foundations of the company because I think I did listen to one of the podcasts about one incorrect hire and bringing in is a lot more devastating than taking the time up front, ensuring that you're hiring well. And so we do that, Thomas. I know you do that on a day-to-day basis, but we have an intricate process of we qualify three levels: the engineering teams, the HR teams, but then I'm the last one to interview to ensure that this individual that we're going to hire is not just technically capable, but is really going to fit into the culture of the company. And so we do have a really defined process up front because one bad hire, I think you said on previous podcasts, can be really detrimental as far as a small company trying to grow. Yeah, your reputation in the marketplace as those strategic high level consultants that are coming in, that one bad engagement can really take you 5 steps back of trying to build that reputation. Yeah, we do a lot of care up front before we hire. Because we've met some really good technical people that just didn't fit our culture, and we try our best to handle that up front. Yeah, so hopefully, I
Yeah,
think we've done it
yeah,
well. We've grown, but yeah.
yeah, you have, mate, and it's so true. I think from you want to get all that stuff done up front on the hiring side because it's not fair on the company if you make it wrong. It's not fair on the candidate. It's not fair on you. It's not fair on the team. It's just it doesn't even really bear thinking about getting the wrong person in. It's a lot of hassle. Definitely worth spending the time up front. I just want to talk to you about timelines. You mentioned this. So you're at a conference, CIOs doing the selling for you. It's all great. I just want to get a handle on those timelines because I know these days I'm guilty of it myself. We all want things to happen pretty quickly. Social media probably hasn't helped that. But how long does it take to get to that point where it's, I know I trust those guys and everyone's talking about you positively and like business and leads are coming in. What sort of length of time would you say it takes to get to that stage?
Yeah, no, that's great, Thomas. It's not overnight. These were years. I mean, I would say, because in the environments that we're in, there has to be some value, not just from a monetary perspective, and so we're presented with the challenge of, yeah, like how do we remain profitable, obviously, but how do we provide value to our clients? And part of that value, yeah, is delivering on what you're saying you're going to deliver on. And the projects that we've worked on is anywhere from could be a yearly engagement. Now we're at a point where we're mostly staff augmented engineers. So we're augmenting existing teams, but at a higher level engineering. But that takes years to develop. If I'm being honest with you, I would say a 4 to 6 year time frame. You've actively engaged with clients, you've demonstrated your capabilities, and you're developing like you are that trusted partner where obviously everyone needs to make money and be profitable, but you're demonstrating a capability and a service that is valuable to them. And that is more than just an overnight engagement. And I would say it's really taken anywhere from 4 to 6 years on a true value proposition to our clients. And yeah, it's not overnight. And that's the spirit that one of the qualities that we actually look in a hire is not just entrepreneurial, like how do you technical capabilities, but how do you really be a really good consultant, trusted advisor to our client? And so we do look at some of those qualities because our philosophy is when we have a net new client that we're engaged with, we really send our best to that client to incubate not only the relationship, but also future opportunities within that client. That's how we onboard new clients is with our best. And we send our best there and incubate the relationship, but also how we're going to help modernize the environment.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, even though it takes slightly longer, you're really building a business that you want to be in and work in and live in, and you're not necessarily trying to throw it up overnight and get an exit. Like I see it in recruitment where people go out there and they're just building so quick, so fast, and they end up building a business that they perhaps don't even really want to be in, because they've got to try so hard or work so hard to win business all the time. Maybe they have cut a few corners, this, that, and the other. Whereas what you're describing there is something slower, steadier, but then gathers pace, and it naturally and organically builds into a really nice environment to be in. And I'm thinking you can be in that forever. If you maybe have something event later down the line, great, but you're building something that's, I think, really sustainable.
I know, that's great. One of the most impactful things I've read is good to great or built to last. And good is the enemy of great. And we just don't want to be a good company. We actually want to be a great company. And it's going to take a lot of time and effort to build to that. And so you have to have the patience, you have to have the endurance, you have to have the perseverance, because you're not going to win all opportunities. But if you can build that, not only just the reputation, the integrity, the skill sets, and you acquire and you hire really good people, you can really build something that is literally built to last. And that's what we're not in for the short game. Like, we mentioned some challenges early on. One of my challenges, and what really kept me up at night, was when I was bringing on personal friends and people to the company. Like, that kept me up at night, because, hey, they're making an investment in coming, and I have a leadership responsibility to ensure that they're gainfully employed. And I think it's easy to gloss over the fact that we're just hiring, as opposed to, no, we want really good people, and we want to ensure that they have a long-term career here at Ashburn Consulting. But as leaders, like, we all feel the weight of ensuring that these engineers not only are excited about the company and some of the things that we're doing and some of the solutions that we're delivering, but maintaining that long term and building that from the get-go. Yeah, so I would say it's not overnight. I would say slow that process down, because obviously everyone needs to make money, but I think in the longer term, you want to build something that you'd be proud of as a leader in the company.
You definitely want to build something that you want to be in, and you love going up, you love waking up to it every morning. I think it's definitely the way forward. So, James, we've talked a lot about the business side of things. We've talked a little bit about communication. You mentioned there before about training. I know you do some stuff with the teaching and university. You mentioned there that the training enhance your communication skills. I'd like to hear, be nice to learn from you, any tips for getting the communication skills to where they are today. Be nice to hear from you as well in people progressing and learning. Where do you see them going wrong, or is there any common places where people hold themselves back or don't optimize their career growth? Anything on that for the listeners?
Yeah, that's great, Thomas. If an engineer really wants to be on a path to leadership, communication skills are going to be important. So I would say that you have to know the audience that you're speaking with. I speak to my engineering teams differently than I would speak to a CIO or a CISO. But I would say that you practice and you get really good at something where you can naturally just speak to it. And I know that for me, at least, it was a firewall technology, or it could be a solution that I helped deliver. I would say take a bold step in speaking to something that you're really good at. And don't be bashful or shy about doing it, because I do think the more you do it, the more comfortable you get at it. But I think we talked about it a little bit in the past, where you get really good at it and it just becomes natural. Like, the people that are hearing it really hears the stories that are really behind that. And yeah, I would say practice it. I would say oftentimes you're going to be stretched. My clients have put me into situations. I was on a panel discussion at RSA, for example, where there were a lot of people in this panel discussion that I got called 2 nights before. So once you do this effectively, get used to being uncomfortable because you're going to be thrown into situations where you have to feel comfortable in yourself and the technology that you're speaking to. But I would say take a risk, speak to really what you're good at, and that's how you practice. Speak to really what you know really well. And then you gravitate towards getting a little out of the box and build your skill set that way. That's at least how it's worked for me.
Do you ever find, that I find if I do something that is going to make me feel uncomfortable, I'm trying to resist it because I know it's going to make me nervous. Afterwards, I always feel amazing. Like, it really, there's something like that which starts bitter ends sweet, and that which starts sweet ends bitter, something like that. And it's so true. It's like you push yourselves in, and after you just feel great, don't you?
Yeah, that's another thing I would recommend is practice it. Just have bullet points or something that is going to lead you into what you're going to talk about. But yeah, I think the thing not to do is read off a PowerPoint slide. Like, I think
Mm,
people can quickly pick up on just your knowledge and your skill set.
mm,
And that's why I say practice it, but also practice something that you know really well and be effective in communicating that and grow into other areas that you may feel a little bit uncomfortable with. But yeah, as engineers really want a path forward into leadership, I do think you're going to have to be able to talk to engineering teams, but also be able to talk to CIOs and
mm,
CISOs
mm.
and do that effectively. So yeah, I would say practice, but the way you progress through that is to something that you're really comfortable with.
Yeah, niche down, get specialists. Once you've got that area of specialization, push yourself like crazy and get really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
got it. So I know, James, like blue team side of things is like your real sweet spot area of expertise. Any for the blue teamers that are listening, what kind of things would you be saying to them? What do you know now that you wish you knew maybe 4 or 5 years ago? Any kind of tips for those blue teamers listening that want to progress, or any areas within security that they should be paying particular attention to, or anything like that that you think would help them?
That's great, Thomas. Some of the solutions that we're seeing is definitely more cloud-based, how to move on-prem and extend those security environments or zones into the cloud and effectively moving workloads between the cloud. I think that's what we're seeing today. And the orchestration on the DevSecOps and those areas are in high demand. Containerization, Kubernetes, and
Mm,
Dockers of the worlds are coming up. But I would say things I didn't know in the past is stay current with the technology. I'm seeing some technologies now that are being brought to the market where you're integrating cyber and AI, or some of the MDR solutions today that are was difficult to integrate in environments today are very quick and easy. But I would say, as far as blue teams, not just security in depth, but how do you move secure applications and workloads to the cloud, extend those security environments, but also have visibility and confidentiality and ensuring those workloads are secure in the cloud is what we're seeing. Obviously, zero trust is something that we've been working on for a number of different clients. So yeah, the whole mobile device could be anywhere. Your end clients could be anywhere. How do you, again, maintain security and how do you maintain that endpoint where it could be anywhere is solutions that we're bringing to bear. So I would say keep up with current technologies, always be on the lookout for products that are being brought to the market, and how you can integrate those solutions into your clients is areas that I would see that, yeah, people need to stay on top of.
cool. Talking of cloud, I heard there's something maybe going on with you and AWS. I saw that on your profile.
Yeah, we recently got certified as a select tier partner. And the reason that I think that's important is because, like, if you don't do cloud well, it can be disastrous. Like, we've come into some engagements where there was no governance. And that's the other area of security that we sometimes the GRCs of the world, where after the fact, the clients are saying, hey, I had developers, agencies that quickly stood up AWS, got it integrated, but it didn't really integrate into the enterprise. And now, after the fact, we're brought in to come architect that. That's a growth area for us. And a lot of our clients are now beginning to, like, how do I structure that well? How do I ensure that my on prem security environments are extended properly? How do I maintain that and operate that securely? All of those things are some of what our clients are facing. So AWS, Azure, Google, a lot of those clients are feeling more comfortable in moving workloads to the clouds. We're positioning ourselves to really be more strategic in advising how to do that well.
Cool, thanks, James. You mentioned relationships earlier. I think you mentioned conferences twice because you mentioned that conference where you went 2 nights before. You mentioned the CEO talking about you at a conference. Is that been a big part of your progression over the years? Is getting amongst it at these conferences, networking? Has that been a big part of where you are today? Any thoughts on that for people listening?
Absolutely. Yeah, part of our relationship building has been through some of these networking events or
Mm,
conferences. And part of sometimes our clients are part of these panel discussions or keynote speakers that so we oftentimes have to be there just because sometimes they refer client like networking at those events, but we're oftentimes being referred as a vendor or someone that's helped make our clients successful. So that I would highly encourage that, because not only do you stay current on some of the technology and some of what the vendors are actually publishing as solutions, but also it's a great opportunity to network with not only your colleagues, but some people that you may not have an opportunity to meet face to face. So that has been an avenue, which it's difficult because some of us are billable and hard to go to conferencing events. But yeah, we're trying to make an initiative to do that more often.
Definitely, and I've noticed a bit of a trend. Everyone talks about remote this and remote that, but client I deal with in Texas, they do a lot of like events and stuff like that. I think people really do want, even if you get those guys and girls that are remote through and through, they still want to meet up. But you meet people that they've never met the team and this, that, and the other, and you look around and you go, hang on, I've been on my own. I've been working on my own for a month, and I think it's just so important. I think we all, just after COVID, we all went too much the other way and we don't need to do it, we can just do it. I think it's really good, even just from not just from a social, but from a career progression, from a retention standpoint. I think it's pretty big, isn't it?
It is. It's actively engaging with the community, having network opportunities that you wouldn't have during the COVID years. I do think it is different. I know we're doing this via a virtual, but it's different face to face, where I think getting back to that is pretty important. I think, yeah, most of our engineering teams love it too, because they're staying actively engaged in some of the products and solutions, and bringing that content back to the company is also really good. So staying up to date and having network opportunities is pretty important.
Yeah, I had to do this virtual with you, mate, on a Friday. You'd have me back on the beer in 5 minutes.
It is Friday, Thomas. Yes. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
No, yeah, exactly. I think as well, and I think there'll be people listening that have been behind the screen for a while, and maybe, like I said, they came out, graduated, COVID hit, fully remote role, and I bet there's people out there that probably get a lot of anxiety at the thought of going to an event or actually meeting people. Like, I know, like when I was progressing heavily through my career in a more junior state, everything was obviously on site, and this whole remote thing wasn't even a thing. And me and you, mate, probably don't think about that. I bet it's really hard for some people. Just go and get to a conference. And again, it goes back to what you said, getting outside your comfort zone.
And it's important. I think sometimes it's difficult, and I get it. A lot of people, even some of our hires, are like, "Hey, I want to be fully remote, or I want at least 3-4 days remote." And it is hard to get out of that, but I do think it's important to meet clients face to face and have opportunities where you're networking, because I think I know it's challenging, but yeah, get out of that comfort zone, because I do think it's important to meet people face to face.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you mentioned Good to Great. I'm going to ask you about books and podcasts and stuff like that. But you've mentioned Good to Great. What other books or resources have you tapped into recently or over the years that you found? It doesn't have to be. It can be security, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Anything that's really elevated your career growth over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to Security Now just to keep relevant on some of the things that are happening in the marketplace. Yeah, there's some books that sometimes I definitely like to read nonfiction, but Zero Day was really good for me. Like, just to take a step back on some of the zero-day vulnerabilities that have been out there, to see how that's evolved. I would say do these, like even your podcast, Thomas, I think it's valuable to hear some like entrepreneurs and people that are in the marketplace, like how they've evolved and grown. I think I would say some of those podcasts, but also staying relevant. And so it could be technical, but also some non-technical books on particularly business owners, 7 Habits of Successful People, how past business owners, how they effectively scale their business. And some of those I think I would definitely recommend, but also having a mentor or someone that's done it and has gone through some of these challenges and know what you're facing, I would say is also important. I know for me in my career, I'm not sure, we were acquired in 2020 by a private equity company, but they really brought some like really good business practices that we didn't have prior to being acquired. We run our business through a process called Entrepreneurial Operating System, so EOS. And sometimes it could be like outside investors that are investing into your company that also have really good practices that we can practice internally, not only just formalize the business, but help us to build strategically back office to scale and grow. So all of that, I think, just staying in tune with some relevant podcasts that are bringing to bear some solutions or services, or but also having a mentor or someone that has walked your shoes that can help really be a good resource to lean on.
I think that mentor thing's massive. It's obviously just for not going down the wrong paths and saving time, but I think even just for the sometimes you just need that reassurance, don't you?
Yeah.
I've noticed it since I've been more remote. There's days where things have gone wrong, and I'm like checking myself, going, I almost know it's right, but I just want someone to like put their arm around me and tell me it's right. Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I think having a mentor, especially for remote people's massive. I tell you what, you've been busy. I bet getting things ready for the PE firm. I've had friends that have done it. It's the stuff you have to go through to get your business from a financial standpoint, reporting standpoint, like the granularity and the reporting for private equity to be happy. I know there's a lot. I bet that was a busy time.
Yeah, I've learned a tremendous amount. If that's one thing I would advise, honestly, when we built the business, Thomas, we didn't necessarily build it to sell. But to do all of that work up front is a lot easier to do it than 15 years after. And so that would be one thing I would recommend to any listener that's just starting, to build those foundations up front, because it'll be a lot easier to have really good financials, monthly financials, business insight into your financials. I think I've heard some outsourcing things that you don't do well and other companies that do really well, like HR or some finances. But to have that structure early into the company, I think will set you up in the long run better. And yeah, something that I didn't have, but now I do have. It definitely is a game changer for the company. So yeah, we report monthly. We have monthly calls with our PE firm. We have quarterly business board meetings. But that's really not only just formalized our board, but also helped us be more strategic in the 1, 3, 5 year plans. Our industry, it's hard to guess 5 years from now, but at least to have a roadmap about, okay, how do we position ourselves now to even think about 5 years is pretty important to do, because that's also part of this EOS is you have something called rocks, or we're all on the same page. And so to do that quarterly, monthly is pretty important, to have your teams rowing the same way. And so it's pretty important to set it. That's what I would advise, is set that foundation early in your company. I know a lot of business owners hate to do it, but it'll set you up better in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I know what you're saying. That it flies in the face of that startup characteristic a bit, doesn't it? But I do get it, because it's like the private, they're doing it for a reason. It takes longer up front, but they're doing it because it's better and it's structured better and it's a better organization. But yeah, I can imagine those first few days you're not really thinking about that, but it would be.
Yeah, to your point though, when we were going through the process, there was a lot of just financial data that we needed to prepare. There was not just existing work, backlog, or pipeline opportunities that we really never really fully captured, and they needed to gain insight into. So we do have tools now that help us on it really quickly. We can look at our portals, develop, hey, what do we have in backlog? How much pipeline business are we engaged with? And literally try and set ourselves up for that next 1 to 3 year plan. I think the more business insight you have and the more tools that you can bring to bear, and it really helps me to make really good strategic financial decisions of where we're going to invest capital and how that can possibly lead to further growth. I know it's hard to do in a startup culture, because that's the last thing you want to do. You're really focusing on your services or product or solutions, but take the time to build that foundation early, because I think it will set you up better for growth.
Yeah, cool, James. All right, my fellas, we've come to the end. I think we've about cracked everything. I know, family-wise and personal-wise, at the minute, you've got a bit going on, shall we say? There's a few extra people around, so I'm imagining you're going to be pretty busy this weekend, are you?
Yeah, I got some kids, some graduations, some marriages to plan, so a lot of that's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of graduations going on at the minute. I've got a client in DC who's at a graduation this week as well. It seems to be it's that time of year. But yeah, I hope you get to forget about business and security for at least maybe 24 hours, my friend. All good. But no, James, seriously, thanks for your time. It's been good. I knew it would. Like I say, the conversations always flows whenever we speak. So it's been nice to have you on. Thanks for your time, mate. It's been really nice to chat.
No, Thomas, it was a pleasure. And yeah, just wish you the best of luck. These are great. Since I've gotten to know you and talked to you a little bit, I really appreciate what you're doing. And you're grinding out there too. You're 6 o'clock somewhere, 7 o'clock now for you. And you're doing a podcast. So I really appreciate you taking the time because I think you have a really good thing going and getting to the marketplace and sharing what business owners and cyber people are doing. Really helpful. So I really appreciate you and thank you for this chat today.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you soon. Cheers, buddy.
Yep. Cheers.